Niner fans, holy smokes, man. I've waited all day to talk to you guys. I wish I didn't have to have a job. I've been so excited. I finally got home and I couldn't wait to talk to you. The 49ers. The 49ers made a splash today. God, John Lynch, I absolutely love you. He made a move, trade deadline. It was getting close to the end. It was getting close to the end, and he pulls the trigger. Chase Young for a third round pick, a compensatory pick. The 49ers get those picks like they're going out of business. They get them for players. They got a comp pick basically for Mike McGlinchey. Thank you, Mike McGlinchey. Thank you, Mike McGlinchey, for the compensatory pick. I don't want to hear any Mike McGlinchey slander on 49ers Twitter. They also got a third round pick for the loss of Ron Carthon and D'Amico Ryans. According to Adam Schefter, they officially are sending the compensatory third round pick that they received for losing Ran Carthon to Tennessee and D'Amico Ryans to Houston. They basically are using that third round pick. They're getting a third round pick back from Mike McGlinchey. The pick cost Chase Young cost them nothing, ladies and gentlemen. And we want to sit here and talk about money. This was a genius move by John Lynch. Chase Young will only cost the Niners $561,000. He's on his final year of his contract, his rookie contract. He didn't have to extend. Like this is a rental right now, but it could turn into more. If the 49ers want to pay him more, they can in the offseason, and it's up to Chase Young. If he balls out, then he can stay in the Bay with Nick Bosa. Oh my God, I am so excited. How are we feeling later, ladies and gentlemen? How are we feeling? How are we feeling, man? How are we feeling? Chase Young obviously has to pass his physical, but that'll be when it's officially official. But man, feeling great. I'm feeling great. Chase Young is going to add so much to this defensive line. Like, this is the thing. I feel like this move was, not only for Steve Wilks to prove, like, there's no more excuse for Steve Wilks, right? There's no excuse for Steve Wilks right now. Like, now you have another freaking weapon. A second-round pick in Chase Young the year after Nick Bosa was a second-round pick. Two Ohio State Buckeyes that didn't get a lot of time together in Ohio State. They finally get to reunite. I think this move was also for Nick Bosa. I think the 49ers saying, hey, okay, look, you've kind of had to do everything on your own. We haven't, maybe we didn't give you a good running mate on the opposite side, because that right side of that D-line, we talk about the right side of the offensive line, the right side of the D-line has just not been good. Drake Jackson hasn't lived up to what we wanted. Clelin Ferrell. Austin Bryant, right? He has been kind of up and down. He's been on the practice squad. And then they got Randy Gregory, who's been okay, but nobody like imposes their will on the other side. We've been searching for that other guy on Nick Bosa, on the other side of Nick Bosa. And I know people are hating on Nick Bosa. He's getting a lot of pressures. He's not closing it. Now there's going to be even more single coverage on Nick Bosa. You got Hargrave in the middle with Armstead, with Javon with Chase Young now on the other side. This is a murderer's row at defensive line, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. And I know a lot of people are upset they didn't get a cornerback. The 49ers desperately tried to get a cornerback today. Those are what the reports are saying. They tried so hard to get a cornerback, because they know they were trying to make a move. Jalen Johnson was the big name. But the problem with Jalen Johnson is I think they wanted more. The Bears wanted more. They wanted a second-round pick, and I think the 49ers were not going to give a second-round pick. They were going to give a third-round pick because, again, we talked about the 49ers get third-round picks like it's nobody's business, right? They get third-round picks easy. They were not willing to give up that second-round pick. And then there was another guy that the 49ers were trying to get. It was the guy that the Buffalo Bills got, Rasul Douglas. The 49ers were trying to get Rasul Douglas, and it looks like the Bills sniped him, and I feel like they went over the top and offered him more than the 49ers were going to do. 49ers were committed to give a third-round pick, and that's it. And, if you look at the Montez Sweat trade, because the Commanders traded away Montez Sweat also, they traded for a second-round pick. So the 49ers, that tells me everything I need to know. The 49ers didn't want to give up a second-round pick, but they were okay with giving up the third-round pick because they're comp picks. They get those picks for free. The second round picks, the first round picks, those are more luxury picks. 49ers know they need to keep those guys because those picks, because they're going to lose some players in the next couple of years, right? Trent Williams, who knows who else you're going to lose. The 49ers had to keep those premium draft picks because they're going to have to retool here in the next couple of years. So with players leaving and things like that. So third round picks are okay because you get them back like nobody's business. And they weren't going to get anybody. It sucks. I think they could have done a little bit better if they were able to get Rasul Douglas or Jalen Johnson or Dory Jackson, but it wasn't the way they looked at it, and they weren't going to give away those draft picks. But the pressure's on the secondary because I think that's where everybody's kind of pointing the finger. But if you get more pressure up front, if your defensive line is getting pressure up front, then it doesn't matter. It's going to help your secondary. And I know a lot of people are really mad at this secondary, how they've been performing, but I think more pressure up front is going to help the secondary. It's going to take pressure off of them. They still got to go out there and perform. Mooney Ward's been holding. He's like a holding merchant lately. Deommodore Lenoir getting ran through, and Isaiah Oliver. This is the one guy I'm a little worried about, Isaiah Oliver, because he's been missing tackles. He's been getting cooked up. He's been getting burnt. But I'm a little bit less worried knowing that Sam Womack might be back after the bye or close around that time. So if Sam Womack could come back, that's the guy I feel like could get a chance to play in that nickel spot. But overall, more pressure up front is going to help this team in the long run. So unbelievable, man. This team is crazy, Oscar Joe says. This team is wild. You know what? Shout out to John Lynch, though, man. Just when you think the 49ers were going to stand pat and put their thumbs up their butts and not make a move, John Lynch said, yo, we are making a move, money move. He's on the phone, due diligence season. You got to love it. You got to love it, man. I know that they lost 3 games in a row, but this is a move that tells me the 49ers want to get off the schneid. They want to get back on the winning things. And, last year they did the same thing. They were losing games. They were 3-4. They went out and they got CMC, and it turned the season. Maybe this is the juice the 49ers needed. Maybe this is the juice that wakes the 49ers up. The big bad 49ers, they lost their swagger. They lost their momentum. But now you add Chase Young. You added Chase Young. Man. Unbelievable, man. It's crazy. Crazy. What a day, man. I don't know. I know a lot of people are still not happy about this move. They're not happy about this trade. But I, for one, am absolutely excited, man. Whew. I don't know. What do you guys think? How are we feeling, ladies and gentlemen? Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the comments, everything. You guys are amazing. I just want to say also thank you. Before we keep moving on here, I want to say the page has finally been approved for the YouTube Partner Program. Took me so long, and I just want to say thank you guys for all the support. It took me having to restart a whole page. I had page was cooking last year, and I had to restart, delete everything, start from the bottom, and we finally got monetized from the YouTube channel. So thank you, everybody that supports the channel, man. It's only the beginning. So thank you. That's all I can say. But yeah, big day for the Niners, man. This is crazy because Chase Young, he has 5 sacks on the season. He has more sacks than anybody on the 49ers. He has more than Bosa, Hargrave. Everybody on this team has less sacks than Chase Young. This man has 5 sacks. 5 sacks. Most on this team. I love it, man. He's already the team leader in sacks. Team leader in sacks, man. Unbelievable. Oh. 1 second. Gotta text some. Chase Young in the red and gold. Buckeyes reunited. This to me is like the coolest part of the whole story is Chase Young and Nick Bosa, Buckeye boys. The Buckeye boys, man. Gotta love it. That is so cool. That is so cool, man. Chase Young and Nick Bosa. Like, I think those 2 guys are going to have a lot of fun. I think they've always wanted to play on the same team in the pros. They were college teammates, and now they get a chance. That, to me, is the coolest part of this story, man. That is going to be awesome. Nick Bosa, Chase Young, 2 studs, number 2 picks. I mean, you can't write a better story right there. Gotta love that. And again, Chase Young, he came relatively cheap, $561,000. That's very cheap for a premium edge rusher. And he's been killing it this season, right? He had the ACL tear a couple years back, but he's come back and he looks like he is Chase Young again. Like I said, 5 sacks this year. You gotta love it, man. Shout out to John Lynch, man. Shout out to John Lynch. Another thing I want to talk about with the 49ers making this trade, they literally own the Washington Commanders, the Washington franchise. John Lynch has fleeced. He has cooked the Commanders in the last couple of years. In 2020, we all know that he got Trent Williams from Washington for a 3rd and a 5th round pick. That was in 2020, right? We all were sad. Joe Staley, he had to retire, and we were like, oh my God, what are they going to do? Boom, 20 minutes later, they go and get Trent Williams. 49ers now, they're on a 3-game losing streak. We're kind of struggling with defense. Everybody's saying they're not getting pressures. They're not getting sacks or whatever the case is. They need a game changer. Boom. Today they get Chase Young for a 3rd round pick, a comp pick at that. So shout out to John Lynch, man. This man is absolutely cooking, man. Absolutely cooking. So, I mean, there's nothing more you can say other than, holy smokes, the 49ers, man. I can't. I know there's people that are upset. Some people are still mad. Like they didn't get a cornerback. They tried. John Lynch was trying, man. He was definitely trying. Tomorrow he's going to be live on KNBR, I believe, on a press conference. I can't wait to hear what he says tomorrow. I want to hear what John Lynch says. He tried all month, man. He was on the phone. Kyle Shanahan said he's been on the phone all month. He tried to make some moves, but, sometimes the moves they're not right. The price isn't there. And at least the 49ers went and they went and got this guy, Chase Young. And that's going to add so much to this defense, man. And I'm telling you, it's going to help the secondary. I know a lot of people are still worried about that secondary. Chase Young is going to help the secondary because of that pressure. He is. He is. Beast Mode says the Niners are thinking with pass rush, we shouldn't worry about corners. And that's it. I think in their mind, they're saying, okay, if we have all this pass rush, if the quarterback can't even get the ball out of his hands, if the quarterback can't get the ball to his receivers, it doesn't matter what secondary we have. And that's pretty much been the theory over the last couple of years. Now, I will say this, Steve Wilks, he has to be able to make sure he can utilize these guys. And again, he's had this Ferrari at his disposal, but he hasn't been able to drive it. I think Steve Wilks just needs to keep it simple. This is what Richard Sherman said. Hey, look, the 49ers are used to rushing 4 and drop everybody back. Just do it. Just continue to play the way the 49ers are used to playing. Drop back the coverage and just let these defensive linemen rush 4. It's all you need to do. Steve Wilks is trying to get too cute. And now with Chase Young and Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave and Arik Armstead, you absolutely have no excuse anymore. No excuse. Man, there's absolutely no excuse. Flood says the rookie from Penn State, Jair Brown, I'd like to see him too. Yo. Shades by Shardall says, did you hear what happened with the Adoree Jackson trade? Both teams couldn't get the call in on time. Actually, I looked into that. It was fake news. It's a satire account. It was a parody account. So the news on Adoree Jackson's, for those that saw the tweet, saw the news that was posted, it was actually fake news. That did not happen. Adoree Jackson, according to the rumors, the 49ers and the Giants agreed to a trade, but the Giants didn't get the trade out in time by the deadline. It's absolutely fake news. If anybody tells you that, don't believe it. It's a fake account. So that did not happen. I would have been pissed if that happened. I would have been so mad. I would have been so mad. If that was real, I would have been devastated more than I already am, says Myth Vibes. Me too, man. Again, I wish the 49ers would have gotten another cornerback. I think that really would have sealed the deal. If they would have got a cornerback in this trade deadline today, I think that right there would have just, been an absolute cherry on top of the day. I still think it was a great day. I give it a B+, because I still think if you wanted to get an A on this day, you needed to get a cornerback. But again, they tried, man. They absolutely tried so bad. Kayla says Oliver needs out so bad. I agree. Isaiah Oliver, he's not it. But I feel like that's Steve Wilks' guy. That's his guy. He's going to let him, live and die by that pick because that was his big offseason move. That was his big offseason move, right? So we'll see how things go with Steve Wilks moving forward. And again, that was his guy. a couple of things. Speaking of Steve Wilks, he did, or not he did, but Kyle Shanahan talked about Steve Wilks and everything on KNBR on Tolbert and Copes. So he says, this is what he said. He goes, on Steve Wilks being on the sideline, he says, he's a leader of men. I would love in some instances to have him down there to be able to address some guys certain ways and things like that. When you do, you lose stuff from being up top. There are pluses and minuses to both. So Kyle's saying, yeah, there's pluses and minuses to being down on the field. There's pluses and minuses being up on in the booth. Like you have a bigger vantage point. But ultimately, Kyle did say like there's times where he wants his defensive coordinator on the field. So if someone's messing up, he can be in his face and be like, yo, figure it out. And I think that's what the 49ers fans and we're used to. We're used to seeing D'Amico and Robert Salah pull someone over on the sideline. And if they're messing something up, like saying, hey, man, figure it out. Let's go out there and like hyping them up too and kind of recalibrating these players. So that's what Kyle said on Steve Wilks. So hopefully they figure it out. I know they're supposed to have a talk this week. I don't know if they did. We'll see. But Steve Wilks has a lot of pressure on him because you go out, the 49ers go out and give you another weapon on your defense. You have no excuse, Steve Wilks. Steve Wilks has absolutely no excuse anymore. Jason says, does the recent leg injury for Chase Young concern you? Absolutely not. He's come back at such a high level. Listen, Nick Bosa tore his ACL a couple of years ago. That year was disgusting. I remember it. Nick Bosa came back at a high level. Chase Young has come back at a high level. He has 5 sacks. He has more sacks than any player on the 49ers defensive line. So I am not worried about Chase Young. I'm actually excited because there's going to be people that doubt him, just like they doubted Christian McCaffrey. You know how many people last year sat here and said Christian McCaffrey is going to get ran through the ground. He's terrible. Guess what? Christian McCaffrey is the MVP of this offense for the most part, right? He's so good, and he hasn't really been hurt. I mean, I know he had the oblique injury, but I mean, you're going to have some bumps and bruises as a running back. And I'm hyped up for Chase Young because there's going to be a lot of people that doubt him, and he's going to go out there and prove everybody wrong. I don't think there's any issues with his leg. He's come back at a high level, and you can see it, man. He's playing so well. So it's good stuff. We should average 3 sacks a game. Yeah. Jim says they didn't fix the O-line. Unfortunately, it's not really easy to get offensive linemen in trades. Nobody's just throwing away offensive linemen. Trent Williams will be back. I feel like they have some guys there now. They did add one player to the practice squad who could come in and start. And they also have John Feliciano, who I feel John Feliciano is the type of guy that is kind of underrated that we're not utilizing much. And I think we're going to see him. Aaron Banks is hurt. I think Feliciano is going to come in and play very well for the 49ers. They did get Jesse Davis. He's an offensive lineman, a veteran type guy. They signed him to the practice squad. I think this is a guy that's going to come in and help the 49ers. It's tough to get offensive linemen, in the trades. Hopefully Trent Williams can stay healthy. I will say this, though, man, Colton McKivitz, he's a huge liability. That's the issue on the offensive line. It's really him. Spencer Burford has also been a little bit of a disappointment this year. Unfortunately, he just hasn't lived up to what we thought he was going to be. He's a lot better last year, and he's kind of regressed this year. He's kind of had a sophomore slump, a lot of penalties, unfortunately. So let's see if Spencer Burford can step it up. But I think John Feliciano right now is cooking, or he will be cooking. And I think that's the guy that's really going to kind of help turn this team around on the offensive line. I think, honestly, when Aaron Banks comes back, they might want to keep Feliciano in the starting lineup. But we'll see. Isaiah says, could they release Wilks if he doesn't produce? So we've talked about that. They can definitely release Steve Wilks. I don't know if they will because it's so hard to transition in the midseason. I think Kyle's going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But, if they do make that move, it's going to have to be a hire from within. They're going to have to get maybe Johnny Holland or Chris Kasurik and promote one of those 2 guys. But they have to really want to be the DC because that comes with a lot of responsibilities. It's not just like you can get anybody off the street unless there's other options, unless Kyle's looking right now, unless, John Lynch are looking for other candidates. But right now we know Steve Wilks has been underwhelming. He's got a chance to really right his wrongs, and figure out the puzzle pieces with what they just added. They added Chase friggin' Young to this defensive line. So Myth Vibe says, I like Burford too. I hope he does get better. Yeah, I'm a big Burford guy. That's my guy. We talk a lot. But unfortunately, he has kind of hit a wall right now. But it is still young in the season. Again, the 49ers are a team that have had adversity over the years, and, they know how to fix it. So, again, to me, today was a huge day for the 49ers. It was tough. 3 straight losses. The morale was down. I've seen a lot of negativity on the timeline. Everybody's been upset. Everybody's been stressed out. But today, it kind of was like, boom, switch was flipped. And, man, this just kind of injected some new juice into the 49ers. It was like a shot of adrenaline, not just for the fans, but for the players. And I think this is what it's going to do. It's going to really help everybody feel so much better and give them some more like bravado. It's just, I think this is just a move that they needed to make, right? Mid-season move, give the team some hope, give them some hype, give them another big time player, just like they did last year with CMC, man. Like this team was great and now they got greater, right? So I think that was a huge move, man. With Chase Young today. I mean, I'm ecstatic. I'm so excited. I couldn't believe it when I saw that notification. I lost it. I absolutely lost it, man. Let's see. How's everybody feeling tonight? Real quick, let's get back to the chat. Everybody hyped up. What do you guys think? Were you guys excited about this trade? What do you grade it? I graded a B. Overall, I think the actual trade for Chase Young was an A because they got him for basically nothing, a comp pick. But overall, I think today was maybe a B plus because they didn't get the cornerback I think they were trying to get. Again, they definitely were trying. But I think the actual trade for Chase Young, to me, was an A. What do you guys think? Were you happy today? Were you excited about this trade? Are you like some people I know I talked to were like, yeah, it doesn't matter if they still have Steve Wilks, screwing things up. I saw a lot of people saying that. So what do you guys think? What's your overall take today after this trade deadline? They made a splash move. I think, again, it was a move that injected some life onto a team that's lost 3-0. Let's take a look at the comments. So Myth says A minus. Heroes in the Cupboard says, I'm excited. I want a corner too, but oh well. Yeah, I think we all did. Let's see. Christine says A. Throwback. My man says A. Isaiah says B plus. Isaiah says, hopefully it'll boost Bosa too because they were college teammates. Absolutely. Tom Lewis says, I think we should have focused on the O-line and quarterback at the end of the day. Our D-line is better than our O-line. We'll talk about that because I still don't think the D-line is as good as everybody thinks. Randy Gregory, he's still new to the team. He's adapting. He's a little veteran. Clelin Ferrell is not good. Drake Jackson is not the guy we thought he was going to be, or a lot of people thought he was going to be. After that, you have Javon Kinlaw and a bunch of guys that are just rotationary guys. So really, the D-line is Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave and then Armstead. But Armstead's kind of been lacking this year, and still, except last game, he got the 2 sacks. Hargrave, after the first 3 games, he's kind of went ghost. And we know Nick Bosa hasn't really been doing much this season. So honestly, I think they needed help on the defensive line. If you can't get pressure, your secondary is going to have, a hard day. So I think it was a good move. I know we all wanted offensive linemen, but offensive linemen are hard to get in a trade. Let's see. Clip says, I think we should work on our weaknesses than our strength. I think defensive line wasn't an overall, I don't think it was as strong as people think it was. I really don't. And I said it all offseason, go get another edge rusher. And they finally did. I think that was the move that they needed to do. Let's say Steven Reynolds says A plus for Chase Young. Carl Thomas, A plus. Real Teal says this trade is an easy A plus. Ethan, I hope ESPN gives us another C minus. I do too. I was actually scrolling before I came live. I was like, did ESPN grade this yet? ESPN's gonna rip us up on this trade, man. They're so dumb. They love to hate us. Isaiah says, I think the team appreciated this bye week just because they can regroup and restart from scratch. Absolutely. John V says Chase Young has more sacks than our whole line combined. He has 5 sacks. Nick Bosa has 2.5. I think Armstead has 2. Drake Jackson has 3. Hargrave has 2 or 3. This man has more sacks than any one of those players individually. Like this is crazy to me. This guy's a force. You just brought a guy that has more sacks than anybody on this D line. I think it's an easy dub right there. Rexy says, "What happened to Drake Jackson? He played great week one, then not again." And that was the worry about Drake Jackson is he's just not strong enough to hold up from the week to week. You know, Kyle called him out last week. Last year, Kyle said Drake Jackson is not strong enough. Get stronger, get stronger, get stronger. And you can tell, like if you watch the games, Drake is getting beat on single assignments. He's man on man with an offensive lineman, and he gets pushed around every single week. Man, they needed another guy out there. And Clelin Ferrell, let's not even talk about that guy. He's just bad. But we knew that, after he was a bust when he got drafted. He's a rotationary player. But yeah, Drake Jackson, after the first game where he had 3 sacks, he's been kind of ghost mode. But if you really watch that game where he got the 3 sacks, they were all basically, second cleanup sacks. Other guys were getting pressures. It was mainly Hargrave was getting in there, and Drake was just eating up, the scraps there. So it is good though for him. He needs another guy to help him because last year, again, one thing we talked about over the offseason is they lost Ebicam, they lost Amenahu, they lost Jordan Willis. I feel like I say this every single time we talk about the edge rushers, and they haven't been able to replace all those snaps. Drake Jackson wasn't magically going to replace over 300 snaps by himself. You needed more guys, and I think that's what this move was all about. And again, Nick Bosa just really hasn't had much help on that opposite side. So John says the value is exceptional for Young. Absolutely. What's up, my man? Absolutely. Should have looked into Ezra Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, there was players that I think the 49ers could have got in this trade deadline. But again, I think they were honestly, we don't know exactly who John was calling. But if I had to guess, man, I would guess that John was on the phones trying to get some players for us, offensive line, cornerback. But again, it really comes down to what were they willing to pay. And I don't think the 49ers were willing to get players for a second-round pick. They wanted third-round pick. And again, you got to look at Chase Young. They're paying him $500,000. They're paying him nothing. They're not even paying him $1 million to finish out the season. It's a rental for $500,000. After the season, he's a free agent. If the 49ers want him, they could bring him back. If he doesn't play up to their expectations, he gone. Let him help this team win a Super Bowl. And if they want him back, they'll bring him back next year. This was a win-win for the 49ers. A high reward, low risk. This is a low-risk move for the 49ers. You give up a third-round pick. The third-round pick, you basically get it back anyways because you're going to get comp picks. You already got comp picks, so you just give them one of those free. It was a freebie. And then you get Chase Young. You're paying him $500,000 to come out there and improve your defensive line, which has kind of been impaired right now. I give you another weapon, and you don't have to worry about long-term with him. If you want to bring him back long-term, then you absolutely can. This was a absolute money move by John Lynch, man. Genius, man. We will see if this pans out. I mean, I think it already panned out. You didn't have to pay him that much. You only gave up a third-round pick. I mean, to me, it's a win-win. He gives you 5 sacks. That's a win right there. He has more sacks than anybody on this team. And I think it's going to wake up Nick Bosa. I think this move right here is going to wake up Nick Bosa. Are you kidding me? I bet you Nick Bosa is so hyped up. Nick Bosa's got to be hyped out of his mind. Hyped out of his mind, man. Fucking love it, man. Absolutely love it. What a day, ladies and gentlemen. 49ers. They signed Chase Young, or they traded for him. And I don't know if you're not happy, you got some bah humbugs vibes. This is crazy to me. I think this was a monumental day for the 49ers. They did it last year with Christian McCaffrey, and they did it this year with Chase Young, man. That Johnny boy, that Johnny Lynch, man. I love him, man. With that, I'm out. I'm going to hop on IG in about 10 minutes. We're going to break this trade down a little bit more with my man Jake from Uncovered NFL. We're going to talk about the week. We're going to look forward to the game after the bye week. So if you want more, hop on Instagram in about 15, 20. What time is it right now? About 15 minutes. 15 minutes exactly. We will be live with Jake from Uncovered NFL. Appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much. Happy Halloween. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. I'm going to do this quick because I got to take my daughter. Oh, my daughter wants to go trick-or-treating and all that stuff. And we're going to go and see a haunted house. So I got to make this quick. 15 minutes, 30-minute live, and then we out. You guys have a good rest of your night. Happy Halloween, man. The 49ers did not give us any tricks. They gave us a treat. I'm hyped. Hit that like button. Bang, bang, Nana gang, man.